Okay, quick myth to bust. You probably think oil sits underground in a big black lake, and drilling is basically sticking a straw in a juice box. Nope, not even close. Oil actually hides inside tiny holes in solid rock, like grease soaked into a kitchen sponge. And getting it out is less sipping a milkshake and more wrestling a sponge for its secrets. Let's get into it. 2 miles underground, the pressure is so intense it is like balancing an elephant on a postage stamp. Drop a car down there and it comes back looking like a pancake. It is also over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough that a plastic water bottle just melts. Charming place to go looking for fuel, right? Seriously, there is no secret ocean of oil down there. It is just solid gray rock sandstone or limestone. But zoom in with a microscope, and that solid rock is actually full of billions of microscopic holes called pores. Oil sits packed inside those pores like a sponge that got dunked in cooking oil. A giant, miles-wide, extremely stubborn sponge. When a drill finally punches through natural gas trapped in the rock, suddenly expands like shaking a soda bottle and popping the cap. All those gas bubbles shove the oil straight up the pipe and boom, you get a gusher shooting higher than a building. This is the easy, free stage. Sadly, it barely lasts. After a few months, maybe a year or two, the gas runs out of steam. The gusher goes quiet, and here is the annoying part. Over 90% of the oil is still stuck down there, doing nothing. Round 2. Time to get aggressive. First, try the obvious one. Drop in a pump and suck the oil out like a straw. Works okay, grabs another 10 to 15%. But then it stalls too, because pumps cannot suck oil out of dry rock pores without help. So engineers get creative. They drill a second well nearby and start pumping in huge amounts of water, like 20 Olympic swimming pools a day. That water shoves through the rock and physically pushes the oil toward the first well, like an underground game of pinball. It works great for a while. Eventually, the water gets smart, finds the easiest shortcuts through the rock, and starts showing up at the well instead of oil. Now you are pumping up 90% water and barely any oil. Expensive and pointless. So the engineers pull out the big guns. They mix soapy polymers into the water to scrub oil off the rock. If that is still not enough, they inject liquid carbon dioxide, which makes the thick, sludgy oil turn watery and easy to move. Sometimes they even blast super hot steam down there, hot enough to melt waxy buildup like butter in a pan. All of this together can push total recovery up to about 30%. Still leaves most of it behind, but hey, progress. Here's the twist nobody warns you about. Pull enough oil out of a rock layer, and the rock starts to cave in on itself under the weight of everything above it. Literally squishes like a crushed cardboard box. Best example, an oil field called Ekofisk out in the North Sea. Giant multi-billion-dollar platforms were built there in the 1970s. 10 years later, engineers noticed the platforms were quietly sinking because the rock underneath had collapsed almost 13 feet, roughly a 2-story house. They had to jack the entire platform up with hundreds of hydraulic lifts and weld in new steel just to keep it above water. Wild save. On land, the same shifting rock can trigger small earthquakes. Places like Texas and Oklahoma barely used to feel any tremors. Then oil and gas drilling ramped up and suddenly the ground started rumbling more often. Turns out the real culprit is not even the drilling itself. It is what happens after pumping leftover wastewater back underground, which basically lubricates old fault lines and lets rock slabs slip. Good news, though, nobody is falling into a giant underground cavern. The rock keeps its solid skeleton, and engineers always refill those tiny pores with water or gas right after the oil leaves. So the structure stays supported. No secret hollow earth situation. These days, oil hunting is basically run by computers. Engineers blast sound waves miles into the earth, almost 3 miles down, and use the echoes to build a full 3D map of the oil field, showing exactly where the good stuff is hiding. No more drilling blind and hoping for the best. They also figured out how to drill sideways. The drill goes straight down for a couple miles, then makes a sharp 90-degree turn and keeps going horizontally, guided in real time by an operator watching a screen like a video game. One well can now cover miles of underground rock instead of just one small spot. Inside the pipes, sensors check pressure and fluid type every few seconds. The moment water starts sneaking in where oil should be, an automatic valve slams shut on that exact section, no human needed. So next time you fill up your car, remember that gasoline did not just casually float up from an underground lake. It got squeezed out of solid rock 2 miles down, pushed by water dissolved with carbon dioxide, tracked by supercomputers, and steered sideways through the earth by a guy staring at a screen. Basically, your gas tank owes its existence to some seriously next-level plumbing.